On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
You just gave the recipe for success, bro.
Eh, Recipe again, recipe. It's up to you to take action now, right?
I love it. He's challenging you. I hope you're listening.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today, I've got Yosef Lee on the King stage. My man, how you doing?
I'm doing really good, Chad. Thank you very much for having me here. Very excited. Very excited.
You know, I just so appreciated our first interaction. It was a humble approach. You were like, me? You want me? And I love that perspective just because, dude, you're sharp. You got a lot of things going on. I'm excited for you to share. And I love that perspective of just a guy that thinks he's just a regular guy, because that's who I am too. And so I'm excited for you. Tell us what kind of business that you got, guys.
Sure. I'm first of all, I'm probably not a your usual guest full who may already be a successful full-time business person. I'm somebody who's still in W-2 and trying to grow my side business. And given that sense, I am a South Korean immigrant, lawyer, business W-2 professional. I'm a father of 2 kids. Live in New York City. I aspire to take back the control of my time by being financially free and living the lifestyle with options through multifamily apartment investing.
Yeah, dude, you've got that down. It's like you've said that before, but I so appreciate that because there's a lot of guys like you and I who had great jobs, great high income earning opportunities, and even skill sets because you've put time and work into those things when it comes to your law practice and stuff. But at the end of the day, you wanted freedom. And I think that is what relates to the listener. They want freedom. And so I want to talk about that a lot here today. But before we do that, you talk about freedom. Is that the greater purpose? Is that what you're after? Is it more than that? Like, what does that mean to you? Give us a little bit of the story of like, what's the purpose?
Sure. Well, basically, I came to a conclusion where given the nature of my job is to trade my time for money. And I did that right for a while, for a couple of years. I tried to go up the corporate ladder, but I started realizing, start questioning myself, like, is that the lifestyle that I wanted to just leave for the rest of my life, for the maybe next 40, 50 or 60 years? I have 2 kids growing up. They want more of my attention. They wanted to spend time with me and I want to give to them. But the more I work hard to give it to them, I feel like I'm in a cycle where it's like a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
become more busier. So that's when I stopped everything and just sat down and started reflecting myself. What are the whys that I wanted to pursue from the beginning? It's like going back to the very start, right? Why did I start choosing this path, becoming a professional, becoming a lawyer? Why? And then all started from there. Oh, in the end, so that I could, I had like initially, and now I had three whys, right? One, just to prove myself and become better version of myself every day. Two,
Love that.
to achieve time freedom. I call it TPO, freedom of time, place, and occurrence for my kids and family, right? So that I could provide and create some sort of legacy, right? And 3, to make a positive impact for other people around myself. So these were all, I went back to that. So, okay, so is this the lifestyle that I could achieve this? I decided not. So that's when I, started just think about other options. And that's when I stumbled upon the book, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich and Poor Dad. And
Yeah.
then it just hit me so hard. Like, okay, I got to shift myself from being an employee or self-employed to self-employed to man or investor side. So that was kind of mind shift that I experienced about 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love how you tied it back to a multifaceted why. Of course, time, freedom, family, legacy, community. impact, all those things kind of get wrapped up into one for you. But I think everybody can fit themselves into at least one of those. We all have a passion of some kind that fits into something that you said. And then, for guys like you have high W-2 earning opportunities, it's difficult to go replace that. It's not like you're just because you got kids, you're not just going to jump ship and
Right.
do your thing. So now you're on the hunt. You're on the hunt to replace a ginormous income, but you want to do it in a way that gives you freedom. And that's what I love what you're doing. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you found real estate. You said kind of the, Robert Kiyosaki book. Why syndication? Why multifamily? Kind of give us the beginnings of everything. How did you get involved?
Sure. So again, I read the book. So I started doing a little bit of REITs, started doing a little bit of mutual funds, like a stocks, right? Because that's the easiest threshold you get into.
Right.
But then I realized, okay, I spent some money and buy the stock, and what now? Like you just wait. Okay, you get a little bit of dividend, right? But there's no activity from my end. So later I soon realized, as much as I wanted to make passive income where I could earn my time back, I again realized I don't just want to sit down and wait for the passive income. It's like I really wanted some activity. So that's kind of funny, right? We all want passive investing and passive income, but then in the end, I think if you just keep doing it, you get bored.
Right.
So I realized I wanted some sort of control of business. So I started looking what would be a vehicle where I could at the same time make passive income, but at the same time, like get myself busy, like and work and develop the business system.
Yeah.
And that's when I started looking into real estate, more so multifamily, because it's scalable. Well, first of all, real estate, it's one of the basic human needs, right?
Right.
You need to have a place to live and stay. And also it's always demand is high. And that's one of the very few that where you can leverage someone else's money, right? You just need like at least you just need 25 to 30% of the actual price of the asset that you can still purchase,
Right.
and you can leverage off of the lending side. So given all of that, okay, I'd like to do maybe some real estate. And then when I went into the journey, I just fell in love with the multifamily because of the way the multifamily gets valuated was so different from residential side versus the apartment, 5+ units, which is
Right.
considered to be a commercial side. So in a nutshell, that's how I fell in love with the real estate on given those factors.
Yeah, I love the perspective there. Obviously, you kind of had an analytical approach about it. It's funny or ironic even how you want passive income, but that you want to be an active driver, right? And I only say and kind of chuckle at it is because that's literally some of the words that I've used myself. In fact, I had a guy, close friend of mine, who had an investment opportunity, and we were talking back and forth. And what we realized is that even though we were good friends, that it did not make sense because he was looking for passive money. He was looking for someone just to here's the money, go do the deal. And I wanted to be the guy, or at least one of the guys in the deal. And I'm just not one of those investors, very much like you, that wants to just say, hey, here's the money and send me a check. Although that sounds nice, guys like you and I that are like fast movers, we're young, we're like, hey, let's put this thing to use. It just doesn't make sense. And so
Exactly.
I want to try to correlate that to the listener for a half second because a lot of guys right now or gals listening to this show, they're applying the same principle in their business, but they're busy being busy,
Mhm.
right? Because they are ambitious, young, or whatever the caveat in their mind. They don't want the passive income. They don't want the easy business. They don't want to build a system. They want to be involved. They're wearing too many hats is really what it turns into. It like the pendulum swings to the other side where it becomes negative. What would you say to that person right now? Because you're wearing a lot of hats right now. You got the W-2, you got the syndication. There's lots of roles that you're filling. For the guy or gal right now that's running maybe a real estate business, maybe it's a completely not real estate business, but they're in that mode where they're doing too much because they thought I want to be involved, but da da da. Like, what would you say to that person, knowing what you know about freedom?
Mhm. Well, I think that's very interesting because that's one of the things that I recently started thinking about. Like, because as you said, I'm wearing too many hats. I realized that before I was trying to maximize my efficiency and I thought I could. But now I'm a point where I started dropping some balls here and there. Like I'm juggling. And then I thought I was the maximum level of efficient, but I started dropping some. So that means I'm having too much on my plate. So I sat down again, right? Always there's a moment of reflection involved when you try to like switch the gear. So now I have this. Okay, what do I have on my plate? And is it something that I want to take a long term, or something that I could delegate, or maybe eliminate, or maybe make it automation out of, right?
Right.
So out of this, I started decompartmentalize my works or tasks or functions or projects on my plate right now.
Yeah.
And then I started looking into hire some virtual assistant and then try to automate certain things. So this was the necessary process, I think, from being a solo entrepreneur to go to someone who's running as a business, because I'm my own business myself, because I try to do everything myself. From that point to somebody who's running a system, right?
Right.
And one of the hardest thing I realized was giving up a certain tasks, giving up the authority, giving up the control. And I think that's the problem for many young entrepreneurs, I think, because because they're so eager to do work. They're so passionate about what they do. They want to
Right.
do everything themselves. They
Right.
want to be the Superman.
Yeah.
They want to, and sometimes to a point where they want to just try to be busy for the sake of being busy, so that they will give them the feeling of, oh, I lived my life for the fullest extent today, right? But I think the necessary step for them is to sit down and make sure, am I being productive? Not am I being busy to run the business? And then being productive is different from being busy, because you can still be productive without being busy by owning a system, right?
Right.
So I wanna tell those people, maybe one or few of your audiences are still in that stage where because I also struggled coming out of that stage, and I'm still struggling, but I think I'm getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. You gave super practical tips around compartmentalizing, making a list. What are the tasks that I'm doing that aren't ones that I should be doing, or ones that I don't like doing, handing those things off, hiring other people, virtual assistants, or office staff, or team members, or other vendors or partners, whatever it might be, giving those things away, because otherwise there is no system if it's just you. Or
Right,
even if it's
right.
just you and a couple of others, because there's some guy listening right now who's like, oh, I don't, it's not just me, but he's only got a helper or two, or she only has a helper or two in her marketing business or whatever. And so I appreciate that perspective. I want to know if there's a specific good decision. You kind of given like this principle or this roadmap of maybe growing and how you've developed. Is there a specific scenario that you can tell us about where you made a decision that just was like, dude, if I could do that one 5 times a week, I'd be, I'd be at the moon.
Okay. The practical one, the recent decision I made was, like I said, was to hire a VA, right? I
Yeah.
tried it before. The biggest enemy was, again, to giving up my authority. Like, to what degree should I give them the authority to make their own decision? I think that's the probably the hardest decision to make. But I decided to give up certain decision making authority to the VA, and then let him handle it. So what I did was I hired a VA. I sat down, tell him, look, for about a month, we're not going to do work at all. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to just tell you about who I am, and I'm going to let you watch me, what I do, and how I handle my project or certain things and certain
Yeah.
tasks, so that to a certain extent, you can do the same and take over that work.
Yeah.
Right. So that's basically what I did for about a month. I call it like a provisional period to them.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but it's a good provisional period because you don't have to work at all. You just watch me, what I do, and try to be me,
Yeah.
so that in a certain degree, he can make a decision. And when he makes a decision, he can think of, oh, okay, maybe based on given factors, this will be what Yosef will do, or how Yosef will make a decision out of,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I did that the first month, and then second month and third month as we go. interestingly and amazingly, he started thinking like that.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's going to have to come back to me with the final product.
Sure.
And then I need to review, but it's getting better. And, I get really, really amazed for the fact that like how he could come down to a certain product where I would literally do a same way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty scary, actually. What I love most about what you just said is that you gave a certain period of time. In this case, you called it a month of not just training, not just like on the job training. It's, hey, sit here and watch this thing being done. Now, the listener right now, they may not have the capability for that person to follow them around. Maybe it's a task that they need done over here while they're over here. So the principle still needs to remain the same, which is you need to provide some sort of a foundation or a following or a structure or a mimicking or a training. I don't know how many words I can use here of something to give them success in what they're supposed to doing, because there's so many guys and gals right now probably that have hired. They've thrown people into the mix. I know I have. And after 2 weeks, it's like, this isn't working out. But you really haven't done anything to help them be successful in that role. And
Right.
so then you burn through people and you burn through a couple people. And then you realize, I just, never mind. I don't want to hire. I'll just do it all myself. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. And another reason why I was willing to do that is because even if he's my sort of employee, right? I think as an employer, we should still add value to our employee so that they can grow. Otherwise, they will. Otherwise, I will continue to think that as him as just a piece of a company or piece of the system, not a human. Then he in from his perspective, he will think the same way. I'm just one of the piece of the company, and whenever I need to leave, I'll just leave,
right.
right? But I wanted him to grow with me and stay long term, so that my time that's being spent to train or to teach him becomes worth, right?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and if there's a give and take like that, obviously, then it's mutual. There's reciprocity. There's a desire on both ends to serve each other, and it ends up working out for the long haul. What about a bad choice, Yosef? What did you do, brother, that derailed you from your plan for just maybe a little bit?
Sure, a bad decision I could think of in on my real estate journey. So it was about probably 2 or 3 months into my real estate journey after I took serious steps, right? And suddenly through one of my potential partner back then I was networking with, he brought a deal to us to look at together. So we looked at the deals, it was great deals. And I was so excited because only been 3 months, 2, 3 months, and I already closed a deal. Like I was really excited about the fact that something's really happening really fast. But I was still educating myself. I was not done with that. I still lacked a capacity to analyze a deal and
Right.
lacked capacity to read probably the seller or study the seller the right way. So what really happened in the end was we went ahead and we hired an attorney and we drafted the legal documents and purchase agreement and we sent it to the seller. And then the seller ended up taking that purchase agreement with the purchase price and shopping around and finding another buyer who was willing to pay more and just
Ooh,
just backed out of our verbal contract, right? So
yeah.
it was sour, it was bitter, right? Because we ended up just paying the attorney fee, a couple $1,000, regardless of the amount, right?
Right.
And so in the end, it taught me a lesson that, education is first thing. You got to know what you're getting into, you got to know what you're doing. And
Yeah.
then it's got to be enough education to understand the whole process and then, like psychology, whatnot, right? Between the seller and the buyer and all that. So that was a good learning experience, I'll say.
Hey, Chaz Wolfe here. As many of you know, I have been on an absolute mission to help entrepreneurs from all across the country in many different industries level up their game and grow their business and intentionally connect with other entrepreneurs. We do that obviously through the podcast, but we also have a peer-to-peer mastermind group specifically for 7 to 9 figure business owners. We are bringing some of the best and most successful entrepreneurs and minds together in a regular and a super intentional way to not only grow our network, but to be able to leverage. And at a certain point in business, success becomes about leverage, leveraging time, leveraging resources, leveraging key relationships. This is exactly what we're doing inside of the peer-to-peer mastermind group called Gathering the Kings, specifically for 7 to 9 figure business owners. So if that's you, if you're ready to level up your 7 to 9 figure business even to the next level and get around other big hitters just like you, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com, fill out a short application, and it'll come to an application call with me, and I want to chat with you to see if it might be a good fit. Talk soon. Yeah, I think the way that you've obviously positioned it is for your good, which I think is great. I think that's the cup half full approach that business owners have to take, because guess what? There's probably going to be another scenario where you realize that, like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. And so it doesn't mean it's the last one. For this one specifically, yeah, spend a little bit of time on the front end. I'm curious to know what you are. Obviously, knowing what you want, knowing what you need to do, having knowledge, being prepared, all those things are great. Then there's the other, like, if pendulum swings too far over, then you've got, like, analysis paralysis. You never take any action or moves. Tell us your thoughts on where does that pendulum rest in the middle of those two things?
I think you cannot wait for the perfect plan. You can't be perfect to trigger something, right? But also you can't be just studying and just educating. So I always emphasize to myself and to whoever I talk to, ENA, education, networking, and action.
Love it.
You gotta, there's no E and done and then N and done and then action. This is sort of needs to happen simultaneously, not ABC, but A and B and C simultaneously. So you got to start educating yourself to a certain point where you feel confident. But at the
Right.
same time, you need to network with others who are more ahead of you in your game. And it always checks with them, like the decision making you're about to make is if it's a wise one or not. Obviously, the decision is up to you. However, running by them and who's more experienced than you in your game is always a plus. Having a mentor is always a plus. And then lastly, action. Up to this point, it's still analysis paralysis if you don't do anything.
That's right.
When I just started a game, I thought education was an action, meaning, oh, because I'm reading.
Right.
Oh, because I'm searching the internet. I thought that was an action, but it was really not, because to me now, action, it involves an execution,
Yes.
meaning there is some sort of muscle involvement
That's right.
and decision making, and then making that muscle involvement upon it.
Yeah.
So rather than, instead of just learning how to talk to the brokers, you gotta dial. You gotta talk to him. That's an action, right? Instead of just knowing how to analyze a deal and what number to plug in, you literally plug in and then get the result. So that's what you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Your explanation there was not only simple, but it's so true. I want the listener to really, really understand what you just said, because they're not in order, like you said. They're all happening at the same time, and you continue to educate, right? I had a client a couple of years ago who I was doing sales training for, and he asked me what book I was reading, and I told him whatever sales something or other, and he was like, "Wait, I pay you to do sales training, but you're reading a sales training book?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Ah,
wouldn't you want me to? Wouldn't you want me to be the sharpest tool that you have when it comes to sales?" He's like, "I guess actually now that you think about it, or now that I think about it, yes." So the reality there is that even at a mastery level where I was providing a service that was unbelievably fantastic in value, I was still trying to educate. So I love how you're simultaneous, all happening all at once. That differentiator of learning what to do and doing what to do is a big difference. I think that if the listener can take that principle and then even apply it to what you were just saying a few minutes ago about giving things away, making tasks or a list of tasks and giving them away, hiring other people, growing their team, working on the business, not in the business. And with that level of commitment of of education, action, networking, like, it's a done deal. You have a 7-figure plus business. You've got a great team. Things are more passive than they've ever been. It becomes easier. Like, you just gave the recipe for success, bro.
yeah. Recipe again, recipe. It's up to you to take action now, right?
Oh, I love it. He's challenging you. I hope you're listening. Okay, so I want to know, Yosef, if there like a discipline or like a process that you take decisions through, like just in life. Could be on the attorney side, it could be in real estate, maybe it's as a dad. Like, what kind of principles are you living your life by when it comes to decisions specifically?
Again, I don't know for why, but maybe that's those the three things that I distilled down to probably the basic. ENA, I always try to apply this too when I make a decision, right? So it's about how can I do this? That's how question I try to apply for each test. How can I do this? And then I apply ENA. So and kind of flip it in a different way. So education, like what knowledge should I be equipped with to tackle this task?
Right.
And N is the networking, but instead of networking, I use, okay, so now who should I know or ask to get further wisdom or knowledge or develop my skill set in this,
Right.
right? And then lastly, again, actions like, okay, now let's do it. So simply it's asking how first and then breaking it down to, all right, what knowledge and who do I need to know and what do I need to do, and doing it is probably the simple principle that I follow. And then yeah, and then as I do that, I think you need to have a big like overarching clear criteria or roadmap of where you're going to, because you gotta I'm a big fan of setting vision or goals first and then setting up like a small stepping stone type goals.
Yeah.
And as a roadmap and having a clear criteria. If you don't have, I believe in that, if you don't have clear criteria of in your business, there's always a shining object that's trying to track you, and then you'll be sidetracked.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. You're giving so much value right now. Hope the listeners paying attention. Speed round time. Got a couple questions here for you. First one is this: dwindle the entire business down to one trackable metric. Joseph, what is it?
Relentless action taking.
Okay. How are you tracking relentless action taking?
Just by documenting my journey, the consistent steps I took on the social media. So that's one thing I started as I started my journey, starting the social media and putting up certain things up there about what progress I was making and what milestone I achieved, and then what consistent steps I was taking at a given moment. And it is really powerful when I come back to that later, maybe like a couple months down the road, how much I was able to push myself and achieve certain things on my vision, right? So, and then I could tell, oh, wow, really, I was trying to take the actions here and there.
Yeah, it's a big deal, man. I remember, I don't tell stories necessarily about my journey a whole bunch on the show, but there was a time, it was probably in 2019, I think. So just a couple, 3 years ago, I found in the box, we had moved several times, and I found a piece of paper at the bottom of a box of some goals that I had written out 3 years prior to that. And
Wow.
so, 15, 16 timeframe. And I had written down some money targets, some assets, real estate, just several things that I was involved with, some businesses and some sales numbers, all that fun stuff. And I'll tell you what, I'm reading this crumpled up piece of paper. But when I realized what it was, I'm like, oh, I remember this. And so I'm reading through it, just like you just said, and I'm going, wow, I did that, I did that, I did. What in the world? It was just like I
Yeah.
was already a believer, bro. I was writing it down, I was reading it, saying it, writing it down, reading it, saying it like repetitively, just like you're talking about social media, writing down whatever. But man, when like years later, when I had that snapshot, ooh,
Mhm. That's
that'll
powerful, man.
that'll
That's
make
so
you a believer.
powerful. Yes, yes, for sure, for sure.
What next question? What book would you recommend? You already threw out Rich Dad Poor Dad, such a great book. What book would you recommend for a six-figure business owner who's trying to build that system that you're talking about?
I it's always that number one bug is richer than important. And if you read it, I'm sure you read it.
Oh yeah.
It's just such a simple concept, yet very powerful, right? I think what's important is to go down bottom to simplicity, right? The simple mindset change of where you're standing in your career journey would affect for the rest of your life, not only you, your family, your kids, your friends, and the amount of people that you can make an impact to. So I'll still just put that book out as number one book that you should read. Not because it will make you rich just by reading the book, but it will just shift your mindset. And it will always come back because I believe in coming back to your initial mindset
Right.
and that very turning point. So because you get busy and then you will be buried into the system. We want to build a system, but unless we always check back to the basic, we will get buried in the system and we will become the system. And that's what we don't want to. As you said, we don't want to be the system or business. We want to run on it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that book is just the best.
You said this earlier too, and I should have said something earlier, but you talked about this analyzation, right? Like that's in essence what you're saying is that when you have this mindset shift and then you go back and you go, okay, I think this way now, but I used to think this way, or I have this system now, but I used to have this system or no system, whatever the situation was before. And having that like gap of understanding of like, wow, this is where we've come. This is why things shifted. And to be able to like, be grateful and thankful, I'm sure, number one, but then beyond that, to like understand the progress that's been made so you don't become, the very system that you've created. But you're right, that book, it's not just real estate. The business system quadrant piece of that is what most people miss. They stay in the self-employed section. They've got a person or two on their team. They're basically own their own job. So that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to free entrepreneurs all over, whether they're in real estate or they're in the trades or they're, in franchising. It doesn't really matter if
Right.
you're in it every day, you're on the wrong side of the quadrant.
Right. Right. That's true. That's true.
What do you think about in like networking? You've obviously already talked about networking being part of your ENA, but networking or specifically masterminding with entrepreneurs or other real estate investors. Like how do you think about that or do you do any of that?
That's necessary to your personal growth and your business growth. And I think absolutely that's one of the very factor that helped me the most.
Wow.
So I love mentorship program. I love mastermind. I love hanging out with like-minded high performance people because I don't know who said that. I think it's I get that from Dan Pena. He's one of the business coaches out there. You are the average of five people that you hang out the most, right?
Right.
And I
Yep.
truly believe in that because that's what's been happening to me. I don't want to sound cruel. I know you have probably one of your very best friend is still not making it happen, is still maybe somewhere down there in their career path.
Right.
It's good that you become, I'm not saying you gotta be just cut off that tie, right? And then not being friends anymore. I'm saying less you gotta look after that person. But for your personal growth, you gotta start hanging out with those people who are more well advanced than yourself in your same field, business journey, and also who can just get you into the positive state of mind, right? And
That's
and
right.
not those who are draining you, not
Yeah.
those who are draining your energy out of you, right?
Yeah. It's a big
So
difference.
big difference. Mentors, guidance, mastermind, meetups. I'm all for it. Hence, I had my very first real estate meetup last Friday in Manhattan. I've been doing this virtual meetup consistently since May of 2020 with the co-host of mine. And then this was like a very first official in-person meetup and it was
Wow.
great. Like, yes, virtual meetup is great too.
Yep. Yep.
However, the handshake, bro hug and
That's right.
just being able to touch, it's next level, right?
Yeah. Dude, I it's so funny being an introvert myself. I would have thought, yeah, like I live on Zoom all day long and I do many days. But the reality is this is that when we've done like, okay, just last month, June, we did our one of our in-person weekends with Gathering the Kings Mastermind. And we've been zooming with these guys
Mhm.
for 4, 5, 6 months with this specific group. And there's some relationship, there's some ideas, there's been accountability, like all the things that you do in a high performance group. But I'll tell you, when we got together, we did some deep sea fishing. We went out to some, beautiful restaurant. I mean, it was just like everything that was just what seemed to be maybe normal that you do in together in person just was elevated, like you said, because we knew each other, but we had never met. It was incredible.
Amazing.
So yeah, I liken that for sure, especially even being an introvert myself and being like a learned extrovert is what I like to say.
Again, I think I told you this. I don't think you're an introvert.
You know, I'm telling you right now, my wife wonders every single day with calls that I'm on, podcasts, all these people that I'm meeting and stuff. And it's like, no, I've learned the value of relationships. And so I count value. But we are like-minded in that way for sure. One question here for you that we'll end the show with. I want to know, especially since you're still caught between two worlds. If you lost it all, Yosef, the W-2, the syndication, if you lost it all, what would you do?
I'll do the same. I'll do the same, the education, start networking again and start taking necessary actions again. True. I'll give you this quote. It's from one of the mentors I have in the group. And it's not quote unquote verbatim. I kind of
Sure.
washed out a little. So he said, the true legacy of generational wealth or whatever the product that you want to create is not just in passing down the actual like tangible asset itself in a way, like it could be real estate, maybe stock or business system, whatever. But in passing down the knowledge and the system of acquiring and managing the asset. Meaning you could take away my building, you could probably take away my stock, but as long as you have that knowledge of creating the system again and the ability to acquire the asset again and managing it, you're gonna build it again.
Yeah.
You will build it again.
So the takeaway there for the listener is educate, network, take action
Actions.
around building the system so that way, even if it goes away, they can do it all over again.
You can do it all over again.
Yosef, you've been incredible, man. How can the listener connect with you? How can they find you?
I try to be very active on social media and I'll only use one handle for all social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and a website and my TikToks. It's all Yosef Brosef.
I love it.
YOSEF YOURBROSEF. So type it in, you'll see me and holla at me and we'll be friends.
Dude, so the listener today, if they're listening on Apple or Spotify, they may not see this video of this attorney. This Yosef is an attorney. He's in Manhattan, one of the premier places in the world. He's got a suit and tie on right now, and he calls himself Yosef, your brosif on. I love it. I absolutely love it. It talks to you who you are underneath the suit and the freedom that you're after. So I appreciate that. I look forward to giving you a brosif hug one of these days, my man. I
We
appreciate
will
you.
for sure. We will.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.